The first kiss lasted less than 2 seconds, happened in front of 27 people, and was easy enough for everyone to dismiss as a birthday joke. The second conversation happened after midnight when the balloons had started sagging, the music was off, and every other guest had gone home. That was the one that changed my life. Rebecca Dawson was standing beside me in her backyard, wearing a fitted navy dress and holding a half-empty champagne glass when her mother called, "One more picture with Michael!" I had known Rebecca for almost 16 years because her younger brother, Chris, had been my best friend since college. I stepped beside her for what I assumed would be another ordinary photograph. Rebecca put one arm around my waist. I put mine lightly around her shoulders. Her mother lifted the camera. "Closer," she said. Rebecca laughed. "Mom, we're already touching. It's your 40th birthday. Humor me." Rebecca looked up at me. There was something in her expression I didn't understand. "Ready?" she whispered. "For a photograph?" "Maybe." The camera flashed. At exactly that moment, Rebecca turned her face and kissed me directly on the lips. The backyard exploded with laughter and surprised shouting. Chris nearly dropped his beer. Rebecca pulled away before I had decided whether to respond, smiled as if she had done nothing unusual, and announced, "Birthday privilege." Everyone accepted that explanation. I tried to. An hour later, the party began thinning out. By 11:30, only family remained. By midnight, even Chris had left after helping carry folding chairs into the garage. I was collecting empty glasses when Rebecca appeared at the kitchen doorway. "Michael? Yeah? Don't go yet." My heartbeat changed. "Need help cleaning?" "No." She looked toward the hallway where her mother had just disappeared upstairs to retrieve a forgotten purse. Then Rebecca lowered her voice. "I need to talk to you privately." "About the kiss?" She held my gaze, among other things. Before I tell you what she said after everyone left, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy slow burn stories about friendship, timing, and two adults realizing that being careful can become its own kind of mistake. And leave a comment telling me whether you would stay behind after a moment like that, because I stayed. And what Rebecca told me made the kiss seem like the simplest part of the night. 3 years earlier, I would have laughed if anyone suggested I might someday fall in love with my best friend's older sister. My name is Michael Turner. I was 36 when Rebecca turned 40, lived in Raleigh, North Carolina, and worked as a commercial landscape architect designing parks, mixed-use courtyards, university spaces, and occasionally the kind of expensive corporate plazas nobody actually sat in. Chris Dawson had been my closest friend since our sophomore year at North Carolina State. We met because we were assigned to the same disastrous group project and discovered we shared a talent for doing other people's work while complaining about it. He became a civil engineer. I went into landscape architecture. Our careers overlapped enough that we sometimes worked on the same developments and spent enough time together that his parents treated me like a second son. Rebecca was 4 years older than Chris. When I first met her, she was 24, already working in public relations, already living on her own, and completely uninterested in two 20-year-old college students who believed frozen pizza was a food group. She called us the children, which irritated Chris and amused me. By the time I was 30, Rebecca had married a man named David Holloway, built a successful career in corporate communications, bought a beautiful old house in Raleigh's Five Points neighborhood, and become someone I mostly saw at holidays, birthdays, and family dinners. She was attractive. I had eyes. But she was married. Chris was my best friend. And the thought never went beyond noticing. Then Rebecca's marriage ended. There was no scandal. David accepted a senior position in Chicago. Rebecca didn't want to move because she had recently started her own communications consultancy, and because her parents were aging. They attempted long distance, resented each other for the effort, and eventually admitted that their relationship had become two adults defending separate lives. The divorce was final when Rebecca was 37. I remember the first family gathering afterward because everyone was trying too hard to act normal. Rebecca arrived late, brought wine, and spent most of dinner asking everyone else questions so nobody could ask her any. After dessert, I found her alone on the back porch of her parents' house. "Hiding?" I asked. "Strategic retreat." "Your aunt has asked whether you're dating anyone 3 times. 4. I missed one. She asked while you were getting coffee." I sat beside her. "Want me to tell her you've joined a convent?" At this point, that might reduce follow-up questions. We sat quietly for a minute, then she said, "Do people do this to divorced men?" "What?" "Assume being single is an emergency. Sometimes, Mostly our mothers send us links to women they know from church. Rebecca smiled. Your mother still doing that? She once sent me the LinkedIn profile of a dentist. Professional matchmaking. She said the woman had good benefits. Rebecca laughed, really laughed, and something in me shifted. Not love, not even desire exactly, just recognition. Rebecca wasn't merely Chris's older sister anymore. She was a woman I liked talking to when nobody else was around. I did absolutely nothing about that realization. For a while, nothing needed to be done. I dated other women. Rebecca dated occasionally, too. She built her consultancy into a small agency with 6 employees and somehow became busier than when she had worked for a national firm. Our paths crossed more often because Chris bought a fixer-upper 10 minutes from her house and recruited both of us into his endless renovation. Rebecca had better taste than he did. I understood plans. That made us reluctant allies. One Saturday, we spent 4 hours choosing materials for his backyard because Chris wanted something nice but cheap, which is the kind of phrase people say when they want professionals to perform magic. Rebecca held up 2 stone samples. Which one? Left. Why, eh? Better color with the brick. I like the right. Then why ask? I wanted validation. You asked the wrong profession. That explains most of your dating history. I looked at her. What do you know about my dating history? Chris talks. That's a violation. He says you date women for 4 months and then become busy. I have demanding projects. Conveniently timed. You're divorced. Should we review your record? The joke landed harder than intended. Rebecca's expression changed. Fair. I'm sorry. Don't be. She looked back at the stone samples. I stayed married longer than I should have because divorce felt like admitting I had built the wrong life. Was it the wrong life? No. She surprised me. It was the right life for a while. I just thought if it stopped working, that meant one of us had to be wrong. I remembered that sentence long after the patio was finished. Over the next year, Rebecca and I became friends independently of Chris. Not secret friends. Nothing inappropriate. We simply started talking directly. She asked my opinion on the courtyard outside her new office. I asked her to help rewrite language for a public presentation when my firm's marketing department turned it into corporate nonsense. She came to a community park opening I had worked on. I attended an awards dinner where her agency won a regional communications prize. Sometimes we met for coffee. Once we spent an entire Sunday afternoon at a nursery because she wanted to redo her front garden and refused to accept that full sun was not a personality trait. This plant says 6 hours, she said. Your front yard gets 4. It can adapt. Plants are not corporate employees. You lack vision. You lack sunlight. We argued until an elderly woman nearby started laughing at us. None of those moments crossed any line. That made them harder to interpret. Attraction is easier to manage when someone behaves obviously. Rebecca never did. She hugged me hello sometimes, but she hugged everyone. She sent me late-night messages, but usually about work or some ridiculous thing Chris had done. She remembered my birthday, but so did her parents. Every individual interaction had an innocent explanation. Together they formed something I refused to name. Chris named it for me. We were sitting in his backyard drinking beer after finally finishing the renovation when he said, "You like Rebecca?" I almost choked. What? My sister. I know who Rebecca is. Good, then answer. Where did that come from? You spent 40 minutes today fixing her irrigation timer. She asked. You could have told her to read the manual. She would have flooded the hydrangeas. You know what plants she has. Occupational knowledge. Chris stared at me. Michael. What? I've known you 16 years. I looked toward the house where Rebecca was helping his wife carry dishes into the kitchen. Nothing is happening. That wasn't what I asked. She's your sister. Still accurate. And she's older than me. By 4 years, not 40. I didn't say it mattered. Then why mention it? Because this conversation is uncomfortable. Chris smiled. Good. You're enjoying this too much. A little. Then he became serious. Look, Rebecca is 40 next year. She runs a company. I don't control who she dates. Thank you for clarifying. But I know you too. Meaning? You disappear when relationships stop being casual. That's exaggerated. You broke up with Caroline 3 weeks after she asked whether you wanted kids. We wanted different things. What did you want? I took too long. Chris nodded. Exactly. What does any of this have to do with Rebecca? She wants a family. That information landed heavier than it should have. How do you know? She's my sister. Did she tell you? We talk occasionally. Does she want to remarry? I don't know. Ask her. I'm not asking her anything. Then apparently we're done. Chris stood and collected the empty bottles. Before going inside, he added, For what it's worth, I wouldn't be mad if you dated her. We're not dating. I know. That's why you look miserable. I told myself he was wrong. He wasn't. The question of children had ended more than one of my relationships because I had never found a clean answer. I didn't dislike children. I loved my nieces and nephews. I coached a youth soccer program for 3 years. But I had grown up as the oldest of 4 siblings after my father died when I was 15. My mother worked 2 jobs for years. I cooked, drove siblings to practice, attended parent-teacher meetings when mom couldn't, and spent most of adolescence feeling like the emergency adult in a house full of people who needed something. By 25, I had built a good career and a life with very few people depending on me. I told myself that meant I didn't want children. The truth was less certain. Responsibility and parenthood had become emotionally tangled in my mind. When women asked if I wanted kids, I heard, Are you willing to disappear inside someone else's needs again? Rather than explain that, I usually said, I'm not sure. Women who were sure eventually left. I couldn't blame them. Knowing Rebecca might want children moved her from emotionally risky to practically impossible. So I did what I was best at. I became slightly less available. I answered her messages later. I stopped suggesting coffee. If she asked for help with something, I gave advice but avoided turning it into an afternoon together. Rebecca noticed. Did I do something? She asked one evening after a dinner at Chris's house. No. Then why have you become extremely polite? I'm always polite. You once told me my front yard looked like a suburban hostage situation. That was professional honesty. Exactly. Now every text sounds like you work for customer service. Busy month. Rebecca studied me. Right. What? Nothing. You don't believe me. I believe you're busy. I don't believe that's the reason. I could have told her. Instead, I said, You're overthinking. The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted them. Rebecca's expression cooled. Good night, Michael. She walked to her car. We barely spoke for 6 weeks after that. Then invitations for her 40th birthday arrived. It was not a formal invitation. Rebecca texted me directly. Saturday, May 14, 7 o'clock, my house, you are coming. I replied, Is that a request? She answered, No. I wrote, What if I have plans? Her response came immediately. Cancel them. The old Rebecca was back just enough to make me laugh. I told her I would be there. Her birthday party was larger than I expected. Rebecca had renovated the backyard since the last time I visited, adding string lights, long tables, a small bar, and enough flowers to make me suspicious she had hired someone. You paid a landscape designer, I accused when I arrived. I needed a professional who actually returns messages. Cruel. Accurate. She wore the navy dress that would later become permanently associated with the night in my memory. It was elegant, fitted, not especially revealing, but Rebecca carried herself differently at 40 than she had at 37. She looked like someone who had stopped apologizing for occupying space. Happy birthday, I said, handing her a gift bag. What is it? Open later. You know I hate waiting. Character development opportunity. She hugged me. The hug lasted just long enough to remind me why I had been keeping distance. I'm glad you came, she said near my shoulder. You threatened me. Still counts. For most of the evening, I stayed socially safe. I talked to Chris, helped Rebecca's father with the grill, met people from her agency, and deliberately avoided interpreting anything she did. Rebecca moved easily through the crowd. At one point, I watched her laughing with a man named Peter Walsh, a corporate attorney I had met once before. He was around 42, recently divorced, successful, and clearly interested in her. The jealousy I felt was immediate and embarrassing. Chris noticed. Careful, he said beside me. What? Your face. Nothing is wrong with my face. You look like Peter just paved over a wetland. I don't care who Rebecca talks to. Of course. She's single. Yes. He seems fine. He is. I looked at Chris. Why are you enjoying this? Because for once, the man making my sister's life complicated is you, and you're doing it entirely inside your own head. I am not making her life complicated. Then go talk to Peter. He's nice. I don't want to. Chris laughed and walked away. An hour later came the photographs. Rebecca's mother had always treated cameras like official documentation. Every possible combination of family and friends had to be captured. Rebecca with her parents, Rebecca with Chris, Rebecca with her agency team, Rebecca with college friends. Then her mother spotted me. Michael, get over here. I stepped into the group. She waved everyone else aside. Just you two. Why? Rebecca asked. Because I want one. Mom, you've known him almost 16 years. I stood beside Rebecca. She slipped an arm around my waist. Her mother lifted the phone. Closer. Rebecca looked at me. Ready? For the photograph? Maybe. Something about her tone made me look at her instead of the camera. Her mother counted. 3, 2. Rebecca kissed me, not on the cheek, directly on the lips. I froze. The camera flashed. Someone shouted. Chris said, "Oh, come on," loud enough that everyone laughed. Rebecca pulled away and immediately raised both hands. Birthday privilege. Her cheeks were pink. That is not a thing, Chris said. It is now. Peter looked amused. Rebecca's mother stared at the photograph and said, "Oh, that's actually adorable." Mom. What? It is. I had no idea what to do, so I did the worst possible thing. Laughed like everyone else. Rebecca looked at me for half a second. Something in her eyes changed. Then another guest called her name and she disappeared into the crowd. I spent the next hour replaying those 2 seconds and pretending not to. Was it a joke? Had she been drinking? Was it deliberately provocative because she knew I had been distant? Did it mean anything? The simplest solution would have been to ask. I did not. I helped clean instead. By 11, most guests, Peter hugged Rebecca goodbye and told her he would call. I hated that information and had no right to. Chris and his wife stayed until midnight. As he left, Chris looked at me. You coming? I'm helping with glasses. He glanced toward Rebecca in the kitchen. Right. Don't. I didn't say anything. Your face did. Family trait? He left. Rebecca's parents followed a few minutes later. Her mother kissed her forehead, hugged me, and said, "Make sure she doesn't clean until 2 in the morning." Mom, Michael is leaving too. I reached for my keys. Rebecca looked at me. Actually, don't. Her mother's eyebrows rose. Rebecca immediately added, I need his opinion on something. Of course you do, her mother said. Good night. The front door closed. Silence had arrived with astonishing speed. A house that had held almost 30 people now contained just Rebecca and me. I collected 2 empty glasses from the counter because I needed something to do with my hands. You wanted to talk, I said. Yes. Privately. Yes. About? Rebecca took off her earrings and set them beside a vase of flowers. Can we sit outside? Sure. We went to the backyard. Most of the string lights were still glowing. Rebecca slipped off her shoes and sat on the edge of the patio with her feet on the grass. I sat in a chair across from her. You're very far away, we said the head of heartwarming, she said. This is normal conversational distance. Not for what I need to say. My pulse changed. I moved to the chair beside her instead. Better? Slightly. Rebecca, I kissed you. I noticed. On purpose. Also noticed. And you've spent an hour acting like it was nothing. You called it birthday privilege because my entire family was staring. You were the one who kissed me in front of them. Yes. Why? She looked down at her bare feet. Because I got tired of wondering what would happen. That seems like an aggressive experiment. I panicked. You kissed me because you panicked? Not exactly. She took a slow breath. I've liked you for almost 2 years. The world became strangely quiet. 2 years? Maybe a little less. Depends when noticing becomes liking. Rebecca, I know. Why didn't you say anything? She laughed softly. You first. That's different. Why? You're Chris's sister. Weak. You were recently divorced. For about 8 months when this started. Still relevant. Another reason. You want kids. Rebecca stared at me. Chris. He mentioned it. That man cannot keep his mouth shut. He didn't reveal state secrets. It wasn't his information. Fair. And that's why you started avoiding me. It was not a question. Partly, Rebecca stood and crossed her arms. You could have asked me. Asked what? Hey, I may have feelings for you, but before I admit them, please disclose your reproductive plans? That would at least have been honest. It would have been insane. Instead, you decided what I wanted, decided you couldn't give it to me, and withdrew without telling me any of that. I didn't know if you liked me. I kept asking you to spend time with me. You ask lots of people. I invited you to my agency awards dinner when I had one guest seat. I thought Chris was busy. He wasn't invited. Oh, Rebecca laughed with genuine disbelief. You really didn't know. Apparently not. Michael, I bought plants I didn't even like because I knew you would come help me put them in the yard. That is manipulative horticulture, though. They're thriving. Not the point. Exactly. She sat again, closer this time. The children question matters, but that isn't why I asked you to stay. Then why? Rebecca's expression became more serious. I have an appointment next month with a fertility specialist. I did not respond immediately. She continued before I could misunderstand. I'm 40. I don't know whether I'll ever have a child. I don't know whether I'll meet someone, remarry, or decide to do it alone. I'm gathering information. Okay. I'm telling you because I don't want you dating me for 3 months and then disappearing when the subject becomes real. That sentence landed harder than any confession. You think I would. Your history suggests you might. Chris again. No, you. Me? You told me about Caroline. You told me about Beth. You joke about commitment every time someone asks whether you'll settle down. That doesn't mean, Michael, I'm not accusing you. I'm setting a boundary. She looked directly at me. I kissed you because I wanted to know whether there was something real here. There is, at least for me. But I'm not asking for a relationship tonight. I'm asking whether you are willing to explore one without pretending the future question doesn't exist. You mean children. I mean all of it. Children. Marriage, maybe. Aging parents. Careers. The fact that Chris will be unbelievably annoying. I'm not interested in another relationship where two people stay comfortable until time makes decisions for them. That's what happened with David? Partly. And the appointment? Is mine. Of course. If we dated, I would not expect you to become involved in fertility decisions just because you're there. I know. Do you? Yes. I looked at her and realized the entire problem I had been avoiding was sitting in front of me asking for something much smaller than certainty. She wanted honesty. I don't know if I want children. Rebecca nodded. Okay. That isn't me saying no. I know. I'm scared of what parenthood means to me because I spent most of my childhood being responsible for people before I was ready. Her expression changed. You've never told me that. Chris knows pieces. Tell me. So I did. I told her about my father dying when I was 15. About my mother taking a second job. About making dinner for 3 younger siblings. Checking homework. Driving a car before I was licensed because somebody needed to get to practice, and learning early that love often arrived disguised as obligation. I loved my family, I said. I still do. But by the time I left for college, I was tired in a way people in their 20s aren't supposed to be. Freedom became the thing I built everything around. Rebecca listened without interrupting. And when women asked whether you wanted children, you heard them asking whether you wanted to give that freedom up. Something like that? Do you think having a child would be the same? Intellectually? No. Emotionally? Sometimes. That's different from not wanting children. I know that now. What changed? I looked at her. You turning 40 and kissing me in front of my best friend apparently created a productive crisis. Rebecca laughed. The tension loosened. I'm not asking you to decide tonight, she said. Good. I am asking whether you want to date. With you? No, with Peter. Not funny. Interesting reaction. He seems perfectly nice. He is. Are you dating him? We had 2 dinners. My chest tightened. Rebecca noticed. Jealous? Slightly. Good. You're enjoying this. After 2 years of wondering whether you saw me as anything other than Chris's sister? A little. And Peter? I told him tonight I wasn't ready to see him again. Before kissing me? Before the party. Why? Because it felt dishonest while I was waiting to find out whether you and I had anything to say. That feels like pressure. It wasn't meant to be. If you say no, I'm still not calling Peter tomorrow. Good. She smiled. Definitely jealous. I looked at her bare feet in the grass, the nearly empty backyard, the remains of a birthday party that had accidentally become the most honest night of my adult life. Dinner, I said. Is that a yes? Yes. When? Tomorrow. You realize you're asking a 40-year-old woman to recover from her own birthday party and go on a date in less than 24 hours. Monday. Tomorrow is fine. 7? 7. I stood. Rebecca stood too. For a moment, neither of us moved. Are we going to talk about the photograph? I asked. My mother will probably frame it. I'm serious. So am I. She printed photographs before dessert. What if Chris asks? Tell him his sister attacked you. Accurate. Rebecca stepped closer. Can I kiss you again? For commemorative purposes? No camera. Then yes. The second kiss was nothing like the first. It was private, slower, and deliberate enough that both of us had time to decide. Rebecca placed one hand lightly against my chest. I touched her waist. When we separated, she stayed close. Tomorrow, she whispered. Tomorrow. And Michael? Yeah? Don't disappear overnight because you get scared. I won't. Good. I kept that promise for almost 6 months. Our first date happened at a small restaurant downtown where neither Chris nor any member of the Dawson family was likely to appear. Rebecca wore jeans and a cream sweater. I had seen her in formal dresses, work clothes, gardening clothes, and pajamas during family Christmas mornings, yet something about her sitting across from me as my date made her look new. You're staring again, she said. Apparently that's a theme. Should I kiss you for documentation? Please wait until dessert. The first 20 minutes were awkward because we already knew too much for normal first date conversation. Finally, Rebecca said, Ask me something you genuinely don't know. Why didn't you have children with David? The directness surprised even me. Rebecca looked down at her wine. We tried. I didn't know. Most people don't. Chris? Some. What happened? Nothing dramatic. We tried for about a year. Then David's job became unstable. Then his father got sick. Then we started having marriage problems. Eventually, trying for a baby felt like something we were using to avoid talking about the marriage. Did you see a specialist? No. Do you regret that? Sometimes. Is that why the appointment now feels urgent? Partly. 40 is a number that makes doctors use different words. Does that scare you? Yeah, she held my eyes. Your turn. If you discovered tomorrow that you definitely could never have children, how would you feel? I thought about it. Sad. Rebecca's expression shifted slightly. That surprises you? Yes. Me too. Why? Because I've spent years telling myself uncertainty meant I didn't want them. Maybe you want the possibility. Maybe. That's still information. At the end of dinner, I kissed her beside her car. This time there was no crowd, no birthday excuse, and no conversation immediately afterward. Just two adults choosing to see what happened next. We dated quietly for 3 weeks before telling Chris we were officially trying. He stared at us across his kitchen table. I regret everything. Rebecca rolled her eyes. You encouraged him. Theoretically. And now? Now my best friend is holding my sister's hand in my kitchen. I looked down, I was. You said you were fine with it. Conceptually. Rebecca kicked his chair. Grow up. Chris became serious. Are you happy? He asked her. Yeah, yes. He looked at me. You? Yeah. Then I'll adapt. That was almost mature, Rebecca said. Don't spread it around. Then Chris added, if you two break up, I am moving to Canada. You have a wife and mortgage? I'd say mortgage, what I said. Still. Rebecca's fertility consultation happened a month later. She went alone. That mattered to her. I offered to drive, but she declined. This is information about my body, she said. I need to hear it before I start making it part of us. Fair. You're disappointed. A little. Why? Because I want to support you. You can, after I know what support I want. That sentence became one of the foundations of our relationship. Rebecca returned from the appointment quieter than usual. We met for dinner at her house. She had been told pregnancy might still be possible, but age lowered the odds and raised certain risks. Her doctor discussed options, including trying naturally with a partner in the future, fertility treatment if medically appropriate, and using donor options if she decided to pursue parenthood independently. What are you going to do? I asked. Nothing immediately. Why? Because I walked into that appointment acting like 40 meant I had 30 days to solve the rest of my life. Understandable. The doctor basically told me gathering information isn't the same as making a decision. She smiled faintly. Apparently, professionals enjoy ruining dramatic narratives. Do you want a child enough to do it alone? Maybe. Would you? Maybe. That word used to terrify me. And now? It feels honest. She took my hand. What about you? I'm still figuring it out. Are you dating me while hoping I decide I don't want children? The question was painful because some part of me had been. Maybe a little. Rebecca pulled her hand away. Thank you for telling me. That sounded bad. It was honest. Are you angry? A little, but fair. I need you not to quietly wait for my desire to disappear. I understand. Do you? Yes. Then if you discover you truly don't want children, tell me before you start pulling away. Deal. For the next 4 months, the relationship grew in every direction except the one we were afraid to examine. We took weekend trips. I spent more nights at Rebecca's house. She came to my mother's birthday dinner and somehow left with 3 containers of leftovers because my mother had already decided feeding her was an expression of approval. Rebecca introduced me to more of her friends. I attended a client event as her date and discovered she was entirely different at work. Decisive, quick, and capable of making powerful executives change their presentations with one raised eyebrow. You're terrifying, I whispered afterward. You like it. Unfortunately, we became physically affectionate without rushing into making every intimate moment symbolic. We also learned the ordinary incompatibilities. Rebecca woke early even on weekends. I believed Saturdays before 9 were theoretical. She planned vacations 6 months ahead. I sometimes booked hotels 3 days before traveling. She left lights on in every room. I reorganized her recycling in ways she considered hostile. None of that scared me. What scared me was how easily I could imagine continuing. The near loss began when Rebecca told me she had scheduled another fertility appointment. Okay, I said. For what? To discuss freezing embryos. I stopped. Embryos. Potentially. With whose? I stopped because the answer was obvious. Donor sperm, she said calmly. I'm not saying I'm definitely doing it. I'm exploring whether creating and freezing embryos makes more sense for me than waiting. My emotional reaction was immediate and irrationally personal. While we're dating, Rebecca's face changed. Yes, that feels like you're making a decision about having a child without me. I am making a decision about preserving an option. That could become a child. Someday, maybe. And where am I in that future? Michael, I'm asking. You have told me for 5 months that you don't know whether you want children. That doesn't mean I want you creating embryos with donor sperm while we're together. Then what does it mean? I don't know. Rebecca stood. That is exactly the problem. What? You want your uncertainty to stop my clock. That's unfair. I'm not asking you to stop anything. You just told me my medical decision feels like something I'm doing to you. Because we are in a relationship. Yes. And being in a relationship means you get feelings. It does not mean you get veto power over what I do with my fertility, while you remain undecided about whether parenthood belongs in your future. She was right, and being right did not stop me from feeling hurt. So you're going ahead. I'm going to the appointment. And if the doctor recommends it, I'll decide. Without me? With your opinion considered, not with your permission required. That sentence ended the evening. I left angry. Rebecca let me. For the next 2 days, we spoke only briefly. I told myself my reaction was about process. It wasn't. The idea of Rebecca creating embryos using a donor forced me to imagine a future where she became a mother, and I was not the person beside her. That future hurt enough to reveal something I had avoided. My fear was not that she wanted a child. My fear was that I might want one with her and discover it only after waiting made the decision impossible. I called my mother. I rarely discussed relationships with her because she had raised 4 children and considered most adult romantic confusion suspiciously self-created. Do you regret having us? I asked after 5 minutes of unrelated conversation. Silence. That is not a normal Tuesday question. Humor me. No. Even after Dad died? Another silence. Michael, are you asking whether raising you alone was hard or whether I regret you? Both. Hardest thing I ever did. Not the same as regret. Did you feel trapped? My mother took longer with that one. Sometimes, the honesty surprised me. By us? By circumstances, money, grief, responsibility. Yes, sometimes by being needed when I had nothing left. That sounds awful. It was sometimes awful. And you still don't regret it. Life is allowed to contain costs without becoming a mistake. The sentence hit me with embarrassing force. Why are you asking? I told her enough, not the medical details. Just that Rebecca wanted children, and I didn't know whether my resistance came from desire or fear, and Mom said, "You were 15 when you started acting like a second parent. Nobody asked what that did to you because we were surviving." I'm not blaming you. I know, I'm telling you surviving childhood responsibility is not evidence you would hate fatherhood. It is also not evidence you should become a father. Those are different questions. Helpful. Painfully. I met Rebecca the next evening. "I'm sorry," I said before sitting down. "For?" "Making your appointment about me." She studied me. "Thank you. I still have feelings about it." "You're allowed." "I think I know why." Rebecca waited. "The idea that you might become a mother without me hurt." Her eyes filled slightly. "Michael, I'm not proposing parenthood because I got jealous of hypothetical donor embryos." She laughed despite herself. "Excellent sentence. I'm saying my reaction gave me information. I don't know if I want children generally. I can imagine wanting one with you." Rebecca went very. "That's a dangerous thing to say if you're only saying it because you're afraid of losing me." "I know. Are you?" "Partly." "Then what do we do?" "You go to your appointment. You make the decision that makes sense for you. I start therapy." Her eyebrows rose. "Really?" "My mother says I've confused raising siblings with parenting for 20 years. Your mother is efficient. Terrifyingly. And us? We keep dating unless you want to stop." Rebecca took my hand. "I don't want to stop." "Good. But Michael." "Yeah? I will not postpone the appointment to make this easier." "I'm not asking you to." She went. After further consultation, Rebecca decided not to create embryos immediately. Instead, she underwent additional testing and made a plan with her doctor that gave her a limited period to decide what she wanted next. That decision was hers, not evidence that our relationship had won. I made sure I understood that. Therapy was less dramatic and more useful than I expected. My therapist asked questions I disliked. Why did I equate being needed with losing freedom? Why did I treat commitment as a one-way reduction in options rather than a deliberate exchange? Why had I dated women who wanted children while remaining conveniently uncertain? "Because I hoped certainty would appear," I said. "Did it?" "No." "Then perhaps you've been waiting for a feeling that only arrives after a choice." That idea annoyed me for weeks. 6 months after Rebecca's birthday, the relationship encountered pressure from Chris in an unexpected way. He and his wife announced they were expecting their first child. Rebecca was genuinely happy. She also went quiet after the family dinner where they shared the news. I found her alone in her backyard later. "You okay?" "Yes." Real answer. Happy for them, sad for me. Embarrassed about being sad because this isn't about me. You're allowed more than one feeling. Therapy is making you unbearable, and very expensive vocabulary, but she leaned against me. "I'm scared." "Of?" "That I'll wait because I love you, then we'll discover you don't want children, and I'll hate both of us." "That's a real risk." Rebecca pulled back. "That's all?" "What do you want me to say?" "I don't know." "Tell me." "That you've decided." There it was. "I haven't." Her face changed. "Michael, I'm closer." "How much closer?" "I can imagine being a father. I can imagine wanting that with you. I'm still scared." "Everyone is scared." "I know." "Then what are you waiting for?" "To know the desire is mine and not fear of losing you." Rebecca's eyes filled. "I don't have unlimited time for you to reach philosophical purity." The sentence hurt because it was true. "I know." "Do you?" "Yes." "Then I need space." "How much?" "I don't know." "Are you breaking up with me?" "No, Rebecca, I'm saying I need to stop letting every month become evidence that you might someday decide. I need to make my own plan." "And where does that leave us?" "I don't know." This time the word came from her. It felt completely different. "We spent 10 days apart, not as punishment, as clarity." I realized during that time that I'd been asking the wrong question. Do I want children? It sounded like a personality test requiring a permanent answer. The better question was, do I want to build a family with Rebecca if we are both able and still choose each other? That answer was yes. Not because I suddenly romanticized sleepless nights, financial responsibility, or becoming needed. I still feared those things. I simply no longer believed fear and desire were opposites. I went to Chris first, not for permission, but because I needed to repair something. I think I love your sister, I said. Chris looked at me. You think? I'm trying to be emotionally precise. You're an idiot. Helpful. Do you love her? Yes. Do you want kids? I want a family with her. Chris became serious. That is not the same answer. I know. What if she can't have a biological child? Then we talk about what family means to both of us. What if she decides she doesn't want to keep pursuing treatment? Then we talk. What if she chooses donor conception or adoption? We talk. Chris smiled faintly. You finally learned a verb. Apparently. Then why are you here? Because if this becomes serious enough, I don't want you thinking I'm drifting into it. Michael, Rebecca is 40. You are 36. If either of you is drifting, that's a personal failure. Thanks. You want my blessing? No, good. You have it anyway, with conditions. There it is. Don't promise her children because you're scared she'll leave. Agreed. Don't promise marriage because you think time makes it required. Agreed. And if you discover you can't do this, tell her immediately. Agreed. Chris nodded. Then go talk to her instead of me. I did. Rebecca opened her door and looked surprised. I thought we were taking space. We were. Past tense? If you'll let me talk. She stepped aside. We sat in the living room where, 7 months earlier, she had opened birthday gifts. I love you, I said. Rebecca closed her eyes briefly. Michael, I'm not saying it to solve the fertility question. Then why now? Because I kept waiting until I knew what came after the sentence. And I still don't know. I love you anyway. Tears appeared in her eyes. I love you too. I want to build a family with you. She stared at me. That is not a casual sentence. I know. What does it mean? It means if we decide together to try for a child, I'm willing. If we discover biological children aren't possible or aren't what makes sense, I'm willing to discuss other paths. If you decide you don't want to pursue parenthood after all, I'm not leaving because the relationship failed some original plan. What if I decide I want to become a mother and you panic? Then I tell you I'm panicking before I disappear. Rebecca started crying and laughed at the same time. That is the least romantic promise I've ever wanted. Good. Are you proposing? No. Good. That sounded relieved. I want to marry you someday. I do not want tonight to become 3 life decisions because we finally had one honest conversation. That is extremely reasonable. Dangerous word. I reached for her hand. Do you want to keep dating me? Yes. Officially? We've been dating 7 months. After the 10-day dramatic separation. We did not break up. Fine, she smiled. Come here. I did. She kissed me, then whispered, no cameras this time. Over the next year, we stopped treating fertility and romance as one combined deadline. Rebecca made medical decisions with her doctors. I participated only when invited. Eventually, after several conversations, we decided to try to conceive together. There were no guarantees, and we understood that. We also discussed adoption independently of whether treatment succeeded because Rebecca wanted to know whether I viewed adoption as a consolation prize. I didn't. My youngest sister had been 12 when our father died, and by the time I left for college, I had learned family had much more to do with who showed up than with biology. Rebecca underwent treatment. The first cycle did not result in pregnancy. The disappointment was harder than I expected. Rebecca handled it outwardly better than I did until one night, I found her sitting on the kitchen floor because she had opened a drawer and discovered a tiny pair of socks her mother had given her years earlier as a joke. I hate this, she whispered. Me too. I feel stupid for hoping. Don't. I told myself I could handle any outcome. Handling something doesn't mean not hurting. She leaned against me. Do you regret getting involved? No. Even this? Especially not this. That doesn't make sense. I don't need every painful thing to become evidence I chose wrong. She looked at me. Your mother. She ruined me with one sentence. We tried again months later. This time, Rebecca became pregnant. We did not tell anyone for several weeks except her doctor and my therapist, who pointed out I had managed to turn waiting into a new anxiety hobby. At 10 weeks, Rebecca had a miscarriage. There is no romantic lesson inside that kind of loss. It simply hurt. She blamed her age. I blamed biology because anger needed a target. We spent 2 weeks functioning quietly. Then Rebecca said, "I don't know if I can do this again." I answered, "Then we don't." She looked at me. "That fast? You don't owe me another attempt. Do you still want a child?" "Yes." "Then I want you more than I want a specific route to becoming a father." She cried. I did too. Months later, when grief became less immediate, we returned to the question. Rebecca decided she did not want additional treatment. We explored adoption without rushing. No dramatic baby appeared to reward emotional growth. We simply built a relationship while learning that family planning could remain unresolved without making our love provisional. I proposed on Rebecca's 42nd birthday. She had refused a large party after the chaos of 40, so we held a small dinner with family. Her mother still insisted on photographs. After dinner, she called, "Michael, get over there." Rebecca laughed. "Again?" "Tradition." I stood beside her. Her mother raised the camera. "Closer." Rebecca slipped an arm around my waist. "Ready?" she whispered. "I know your tricks now." "Do you?" The camera flashed. Rebecca kissed my cheek this time. "Disappointing," I said. "Maturity." Everyone laughed. Later, after everyone left, I asked Rebecca to stay in the backyard with me. "This feels suspiciously familiar," she said. "That's intentional." The same string lights glowed above us. The patio had changed. So had we. 2 years ago, I said, "You asked me to stay after your birthday because you needed to know whether I was willing to explore a relationship without pretending the future didn't exist." Rebecca's expression softened. "I remember. I thought commitment was something you did after every important question had an answer. You hated unanswered questions. Still do. Growth incomplete. Very." I took the ring from my pocket. What I learned is that marriage isn't an answer to every question. It's choosing who gets to stand inside them with you. Tears appeared immediately. "Michael, I don't know whether we'll become parents. I don't know what our careers will look like in 5 years or how many times Chris will threaten to move to Canada because our relationship makes him uncomfortable." From inside the house, Chris shouted, "I can hear you!" Rebecca laughed through tears. "Privacy is impossible in this family." "Apparently." I lowered myself onto one knee. "I do know I love you. I know I want ordinary mornings, impossible decisions, your terrible plant choices, and every future version of this backyard with you. Rebecca Dawson, will you marry me?" She looked at me for several seconds. "Are you sure?" "About marrying you? Yes. About everything else? Absolutely not." She laughed. "Perfect answer. Is that a yes?" "Yes, Michael, I'll marry you." I slid the ring onto her finger. Rebecca pulled me up and kissed me. The back door opened almost immediately. Chris leaned out. "Can we celebrate yet?" "Were you listening?" Rebecca shouted. "The walls are thin." "You were standing beside the door." "Technical detail." Her mother appeared behind him, already crying. "I knew this would happen after the 40th birthday photograph." "Mom, I still have it framed." "Of course you do." We married the following spring in a small ceremony outside Raleigh. Chris was my best man. During his toast, he said, "I spent years thinking the problem would be my best friend dating my older sister. Turns out the real problem was both of them possessing advanced degrees and avoiding obvious conversations." Rebecca shouted, "Neither of us has an advanced degree. Emotionally, you do." Everyone laughed. Then he became serious. "They taught me something I didn't know I needed to learn. Being uncertain about the future is not the same as being uncertain about a person." Rebecca squeezed my hand. That line stayed with me. A year into our marriage, we became licensed foster parents. Not because adoption was a replacement plan, and not because we were trying to manufacture the ending fertility treatment had not given us. Rebecca's agency had worked with a nonprofit serving teens aging out of foster care. And the more we learned, the more we realized family could become larger in ways neither of us had imagined when we first discussed children. Our first placement was temporary, a 14-year-old girl named Kayla who needed somewhere safe for 8 weeks while relatives completed approval. Those 8 weeks changed us more than any parenting book. Kayla was funny, suspicious, brilliant at science, and completely unimpressed by my cooking. "This pasta tastes responsible, Ma," she said one night. "What does that mean?" "Like someone measured salt." Rebecca laughed so hard she nearly spilled her water. When Kayla eventually moved in with her aunt, we cried after she left. We also knew the goal had been reunification with family, not keeping someone because we loved them. 2 years later, we adopted a 15-year-old boy named Marcus, not named after anyone in our family, who had been in foster care for most of his childhood and had absolutely no interest in being treated like a sentimental rescue story. "I already have a life," he told us during one of our first meetings. "I need parents, not people who think I'm a project." Rebecca answered, "Good. Michael already has enough projects." He looked at me. "What do you do?" "Landscape architecture." "So you literally make projects." Unfortunately, Marcus eventually became our son because all three of us chose it, slowly, with a social worker, therapists, difficult conversations, and no cinematic certainty. The first time he called me dad happened accidentally while asking where his headphones were. He froze. I froze. Rebecca wisely kept reading her book. "Did you hear that?" he asked. "Hear what?" "Good." He walked away. I went into the garage and cried where nobody could see me. Rebecca found me 10 minutes later because she knew me too well. "You're crying." "Dust." "In the garage, aggressive dust." She hugged me. "Still scared of being needed?" "Constantly." "Regret it?" I thought about my mother's sentence. "Not even close." Years passed. Rebecca's birthday photograph from 40 remained framed in her mother's house. It showed exactly the second Rebecca kissed me. My face looks completely shocked. Chris is visible in the background, reacting like someone witnessing a traffic accident. Rebecca's mother loves showing it to people. "This was when it started," she says. Rebecca always corrects her. "No, it started later." And she's right. The kiss was a title moment, a dramatic photograph, the kind of story people remember because it is simple. Woman kisses man. Man realizes feelings. Romance begins. But that is not what actually changed us. The important moment came after everyone left when Rebecca asked me to sit with her privately and said she would not build another relationship around things nobody wanted to discuss. She told me she wanted a family without demanding I provide one. She told me she liked me without pretending attraction solved compatibility. She gave me enough truth to choose whether I could stay. My first real act of love was not kissing her back. It was staying long enough to answer honestly. On Rebecca's 50th birthday, we had another party in the same backyard. Marcus was 23 and home from college. Chris had 2 children who treated our house like a second home. Rebecca's parents were older and still taking too many photographs. At the end of the evening, her mother called. "One with Michael." Rebecca groaned. 10 years and you're still doing this? Tradition. I stood beside my wife. Rebecca wrapped an arm around my waist. Her mother said, "Closer." "We're married," and kicked in, I said. "You can survive." Rebecca looked at me. "Ready? For the photograph?" "Maybe." She kissed me just as the camera flashed. Everyone laughed. "Still birthday privilege?" I whispered. "Permanent clause." Later, after everyone left, Rebecca asked me to stay in the backyard even though we lived in the same house. "Private meeting?" I asked. Very serious. We sat beneath the string lights. "What do you want to discuss?" "Nothing." "You specifically requested privacy." "I wanted 5 minutes before we clean." "That sounds suspiciously healthy." Rebecca leaned against me. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you left right after my 40th birthday?" "Yes." "Would you have called the next day?" "Maybe." Terrible answer. Honest. "I probably would have called you." Aggressive woman. "You needed management." We sat quietly. Then she said, "Do you regret not having a biological child?" I thought about it before answering. "Sometimes." Rebecca nodded. "Me too." "Does that surprise you?" "No." "Do you regret our life?" "Never." Both things were true. That was the kind of emotional complexity younger versions of us had tried to eliminate before making choices. We eventually learned a better rule. Regret about one path does not automatically invalidate another. Missing a life you never had does not mean you love the life you built less. Being afraid of responsibility does not mean you are incapable of love. Wanting children does not make another person obligated to want them. And loving someone is not permission to quietly wait for them to become compatible with your future. My best friend's older sister invited me to her birthday party. kissed me for a commemorative photo, and then asked me to stay behind so we could meet in private. That sounds like the beginning of a romance. In reality, it was the beginning of a conversation. The kiss gave us chemistry. The conversation gave us a chance. Everything that lasted came after. The boundaries, the uncomfortable questions, the fertility appointments, the fear of the grief, the decision not to treat one outcome as proof that our relationship had succeeded or failed, the marriage, and eventually a family that looked nothing like either of us had imagined when we first started talking. If Rebecca had asked me on her 40th birthday whether I could promise her children, I would have run. If I had asked her to promise she would never need more from me than I could comfortably give, she should have walked away. Instead, she asked a better question. Was I willing to stay in the conversation while the future was still uncertain? I said yes. That turned out to be the promise that mattered most. So, if this story stayed with you, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling me what you think. When two people care deeply about each other, but their future goals are not completely clear, should they wait until every question has an answer? Or can honest uncertainty still be strong enough to build a life on? Rebecca and I spent years learning that certainty is not the same thing as commitment. Sometimes commitment begins much more quietly, with everyone else gone, the party over, and one person asking the other not to leave before they have finally told the truth.